Silent Arsenal Inspector Val Kresh of the Therixian Imperial Navy walked through the human military facility with barely concealed contempt. His chitinous exoskeleton clicked softly against the metal floor as he examined the primitive weapons displays with his compound eyes. And this, Commander Rebecca Torres gestured to a sleek missile mounted on a display rack, is our latest long-range strike weapon, solid fuel propellant plasma warhead, effective range of approximately 3 million kilometers. Val Kresh's translator vocalized his disdainful chirp. Fascinating. We were using similar technology 4 centuries ago, before we discovered antimatter confinement. He made a notation on his datapad. Your progress is adequate for a recently contacted species. Rebecca smiled tightly. She'd been running these inspection tours for 6 months now, ever since the Therixian Empire had generously offered humanity protective oversight of their military development. The term was diplomatic code for, "We don't trust you with anything dangerous." "We appreciate the Empire's guidance," she said, leading him to the next display. "This is our newest ship-class destroyer, the Resolute." Through the observation window, a human warship hung in orbital dock, 300 meters of composite armor and conventional weapon systems. Val Kresh studied it with the same expression a wealthy collector might give a child's crayon drawing. Kinetic missiles, chemical lasers, fusion reactors. He clicked his mandibles, all within acceptable parameters for a Tier 3 civilization. "You have our permission to construct 12 more vessels of this class." "Your generosity knows no bounds," Rebecca replied, her tone perfectly neutral. What? Val Kresh didn't know what no Therixian inspector had discovered in 6 months of increasingly invasive inspections was that the Resolute was exactly what humanity wanted them to see. A decoy. A distraction. The real work was happening 17 million kilometers away. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, inside a hollowed-out planetoid designated as Mining Station Theta 7, humanity's actual military-industrial complex hummed with activity that would have terrified the Therixian Empire into immediate military action. Chief Engineer Marcus Hayes floated through the zero-gravity construction bay, watching as the latest batch of railgun systems rolled off the automated assembly line. Each weapon was a masterpiece of electromagnetic engineering, 50 meters of superconducting coils wrapped around a precision-machined accelerator rail. "How many are operational?" asked General Patricia Okonkwo, her image flickering on the holographic comm system. 217 capital ship class, 812 corvette scale, and over 3,000 point defense models. Marcus reported. "We're producing another 50 capital weapons per week." "And the Therixians still have no idea?" "They're looking for the wrong things." Marcus pulled up a schematic. "Their inspections focus on power signatures, exotic matter, antimatter storage, all the hallmarks of their technology. Railguns run on standard electromagnetic principles. To their sensors, our facilities look like ordinary industrial equipment." Patricia allowed herself a rare smile. 5 years of keeping this secret. Every engineer, every worker, every commander who knows the truth. Not one leak. "People understand what's at stake," Marcus replied. "The Therixians aren't here to help us. They're here to ensure we stay dependent on their technology, their trade networks, their protection. We've read the historical databases. Every species they've guided ends up as a client state." "Not us," Patricia said firmly. "How much longer until we have enough weapons to equip the reserve fleet?" 3 months. Maybe 2 if we push the production schedule. Make it 2. Intelligence suggests the Therixians are planning to formalize their oversight into a permanent protectorate agreement. We need to be ready before that happens. Back at the Earth facility, the inspection was concluding. Val Kresh had filled his datapad with condescending notes about humanity's charming attempts at military development. He was preparing to leave when his communication implant chirped. "Inspector Val Kresh," his aide's voice came through. "We've detected an encrypted transmission burst from the facility's main computer. It was heavily scrambled, but we managed to capture fragments. One phrase appeared multiple times. Project Kinetic Thunder." Val Kresh's antennae quivered with interest. "Project Kinetic Thunder? Commander Torres, what is Project Kinetic Thunder?" Rebecca's heart rate spiked, but her expression remained carefully controlled. They'd planned for this contingency. "Oh, that old thing? It was a failed mining initiative from 3 years ago. We tried using electromagnetic accelerators to launch ore packages from asteroid mines directly to Earth orbit. Turned out to be catastrophically inefficient. The packages burned up in atmosphere or missed their targets entirely. Want to see the project files? Of course. Rebecca pulled up heavily redacted documents that her intelligence team had prepared months ago. They showed exactly what she'd described. A poorly conceived mining project that had wasted billions of dollars before being shuttered. Valcresh examined the files with increasing boredom. Failed civilian projects were of no interest to him. Very well. This concludes today's inspection. The Empire finds your military development adequately constrained. You will receive updated guidelines for next quarter's weapons production quotas. We live to serve the Empire's wisdom, Rebecca said with a straight face. After the Therixian shuttle departed, Rebecca allowed herself exactly 10 seconds of relief before opening a secure channel. This is Commander Torres. Inspection complete. Cover story accepted. However, we need to accelerate the timeline. They're starting to dig deeper. 3 days later, the human freighter Merchant's Hope was en route from Mars to Earth, its cargo manifest listing industrial equipment and mineral ore. Captain James Chen watched his navigation displays with practiced casualness while his crew went about their routine duties. Below decks, concealed in specially shielded compartments that registered as cargo holds, were 6 experimental railgun turrets. This was the final shakedown cruise before the systems were installed on actual warships. Captain, his communications officer called out, "We're being hailed by a Therixian patrol vessel. They're ordering us to heave to for inspection." James kept his expression neutral. Random inspections were technically legal under the current treaties, though this was the 3rd time this month. The Therixians were getting suspicious about something. "Acknowledge and comply," he ordered. "Begin standard inspection." Protocols. What James didn't know, what no one on the Merchant's Hope knew, was that the Therixian patrol ship wasn't actually performing a random inspection. Commander Sektar of the Therixian Navy reviewed his orders one final time. The human freighter was flagged for detailed inspection with probable cause for contraband. The probable cause was fabricated, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that certain individuals in the syndicate, the criminal organization that operated across multiple star systems, had paid extremely well for this particular ship to be searched and its cargo documented. The syndicate had received a tip. Humans were developing unauthorized weapons. If proof could be obtained, it would justify increased Therixian military presence in human space. And increased military presence meant increased opportunities for smuggling, blackmail, and profit. Sektar was supposed to find weapons, report them, and collect his payment. What he didn't know was that the syndicate's information source had been fed misinformation by human intelligence. The Merchant's Hope was carrying railguns. Yes, but this was intentional. Humanity was tired of hiding. As the Therixian patrol ship approached, James received a priority message from Earth Command. Authorization granted. If hostilities commence, you are weapons-free. Show them what we've built. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, I'm reading 4 additional contacts on long-range sensors, syndicate signatures. They're moving to intercept. James's blood ran cold. This wasn't a simple inspection. This was an ambush. The corrupt Therixian commander had arranged for syndicate pirates to attack during the inspection. They'd claim the humans fired first, seize the ship, and discover the illegal weapons. Perfect justification for a military crackdown. Battle stations, James ordered quietly. But keep it quiet. I want them to think we're helpless. Throughout the ship, crew members moved to combat positions they'd drilled 1,000 times. In the hidden weapons bays, railgun systems began their power-up sequence. Massive capacitors charging with enough energy to accelerate a tungsten slug to a significant fraction of light speed. The Therixian patrol ship pulled alongside, its tractor beams locking onto the Merchant's Hope. Prepare for boarding, Sektar transmitted. All crew to the main cargo bay for identification verification. James watched his tactical display. The syndicate ships were closing fast, trying to appear as random traffic until they were in attack range. The Therixian commander thought he was clever, orchestrating an incident that would benefit everyone. Everyone except humanity. Syndicate vessels are powering weapons, his tactical officer reported. They're targeting our engines. They want to cripple us. Time to firing position. 30 seconds, James took a deep breath. This was it, the moment that would change everything. Once they revealed the railguns, there was no going back. The secret would be out. The Therixians would know humanity had been deceiving them for 5 years, but they'd also know that humanity wasn't defenseless. On my mark, James said calmly. Weapons bay doors open. Target the Syndicate vessels first. Show the Therixians we know who the real threat is. Captain. The Syndicate ships opened fire. Plasma bolts streaking toward the Merchant's Hope. Sektar watched with satisfaction. The perfect setup. The humans would be destroyed. He'd file a report about a tragic pirate attack and collect his payment. Then the human freighter transformed. Panels along its hull retracted with mechanical precision. 6 turrets emerged from concealed bays, their massive barrels swiveling toward the attacking Syndicate ships with predatory precision. What? Sektar began, his translator struggling to convey his shock. The railguns fired. Thunder revealed. The universe didn't care about Syndicate pirates, corrupt officials, or galactic politics. Physics operated by immutable laws, and those laws were about to be demonstrated with brutal clarity. 6 railgun turrets discharged simultaneously. Tungsten slugs, each weighing 5 kilograms, accelerated through electromagnetic rails in a fraction of a second, achieving velocities that made conventional weapons look like thrown rocks. The projectiles crossed the distance to the Syndicate ships faster than their sensors could register the threat. The lead pirate vessel exploded first. The railgun slug punched through its forward hull, through its reactor core and out the stern in a perfectly straight line. The ship didn't have time to react. One moment it existed. The next it was expanding debris. Impossible, Sektar whispered, watching his tactical display. The second and third Syndicate ships suffered identical fates. Tungsten penetrators moving at relativistic velocities cared nothing for shields, armor, or evasive maneuvers. They simply unmade everything in their path with the pure, unstoppable force of kinetic energy. The fourth pirate ship's captain, witnessing the instant annihilation of his comrades, attempted to flee. His ship's engines were still spooling up when 2 railgun rounds struck simultaneously, one through the engineering section, one through the bridge. The vessel broke apart cleanly, bisected by weapons that the galactic community had dismissed as primitive centuries ago. Total elapsed time from first shot to complete victory. 3.7 seconds. Captain James, Chen watched the debris clouds expanding on his display. Cease fire. All Syndicate vessels neutralized. He turned to the communication station. Open a channel to the Therixian patrol ship. On Sektar's bridge, alarms screamed. His crew stared at their sensors in disbelief, trying to comprehend what they'd just witnessed. The humans had destroyed 4 combat-capable vessels with weapons that weren't supposed to exist. Commander, his tactical officer chirped frantically. The human vessel is hailing us. Sektar composed himself with effort. Put them through. Captain Chen's face appeared on the view screen, his expression calm but his eyes hard. Commander Sektar, I believe you were about to conduct an inspection. However, given that your Syndicate allies just attacked us, I'm declaring this interaction concluded. I suggest you return to your base and inform your superiors that the human merchant vessel Merchant's Hope successfully defended itself against pirate attack. Those weapons, Sektar began, are perfectly legal under our current treaties, James interrupted. There is no prohibition against electromagnetic mass drivers for defensive purposes. I'm sure your legal department will confirm this. It was technically true. The treaties restricted antimatter weapons, biological warfare, and various exotic technologies. But no one had thought to ban railguns because no one took kinetic weapons seriously anymore. It was like banning swords in the age of plasma rifles, an oversight born from assumption. I must report this, Sektar said weakly. Please do. And Commander? Tell them humanity has hundreds more where these came from. The communication cut off. Sektar stared at the blank screen, his career crumbling around him. He'd been caught facilitating a Syndicate attack on a human vessel, and the humans had not only survived but had demonstrated military capability that the Empire had completely failed to detect. This was going to start a war. Or worse, a panic. Within an hour, the sensor recordings from Sektar's ship had been transmitted to Therixian Naval Command. Within 2 hours, they'd been forwarded to the Imperial Council. Within 3 hours, every major power in the galaxy had received copies through various intelligence channels. The response was immediate and catastrophic to the established order. On the Therixian throne world, Emperor Caxthor convened an emergency session of his military advisors. The holographic recording of the railgun attack played on repeat, while insectoid generals clicked their mandibles in agitation. "How is this possible?" the Emperor demanded. "Our inspection... We're focused on our own technological paradigms, Your Majesty," admitted Admiral Vexrin. "We looked for antimatter signatures, exotic particle emissions, dimensional folding technology. We never considered they might perfect weapons we abandoned millennia ago. Can our shields stop these?" "Railguns, silence." Then Vexrin admitted, "No, Your Majesty. Our shields are optimized for energy dissipation and particle deflection. Solid matter moving at significant fractions of light speed? The physics are unfavorable. A single hit would penetrate our best battleships." In the neutral station of Beacon Prime, representatives from 40 different species gathered in emergency session. The recordings played on the central display while diplomats whispered in dozens of languages. "The humans have been lying to us for years," said Ambassador Telroth of the Confederation. "Every inspection, every treaty negotiation, they were concealing a weapons program. Can you blame them?" Countered Ambassador Yersel of the Free Worlds. "The Therixians weren't offering partnership, they were offering subjugation. The humans simply chose to ensure they had alternatives. Alternatives that can shred our fleets. Then perhaps we should have treated them with more respect from the beginning." The debate raged for hours, but underneath the diplomatic rhetoric was a simple, terrifying truth. Humanity had changed the galactic balance of power overnight with weapons everyone had dismissed as obsolete. On Earth, Commander Rebecca Torres stood in the war room beneath Geneva, watching the global communication networks light up with reactions. General Okonkwo joined her, arms crossed. "Well," Patricia said, "the secret's out." "The plan's working perfectly," Rebecca replied. 23 different alien species have sent urgent diplomatic requests for meetings. The Therixians have recalled their inspection teams, and intelligence reports that at least 6 major powers have begun crash programs to develop their own kinetic weapons, which will take them years to perfect, Patricia noted with satisfaction. "We've had a 5-year head start and we're not stopping. By the time they field their first-generation railguns, we'll be on Generation 3. A priority communication flashed on the main screen. Rebecca opened it to reveal the face of the Therixian Emperor himself, a rare honor for a human officer. "Commander Torres," Caxthor said stiffly, "the Empire wishes to discuss revisions to our current treaty arrangements." "I'm sure we can arrange something, Your Majesty," Rebecca replied smoothly. "Perhaps terms that reflect a more equitable partnership?" The Emperor's antennae quivered with barely suppressed rage, but he knew he had no choice. "That would be acceptable. We will transmit new proposals shortly." After the communication ended, Patricia laughed. "From oversight to partnership in less than 12 hours. That might be a record." "It's not over yet," Rebecca cautioned. "We've made enemies today. Some species will see this as humanity being dangerous and unpredictable." "Let them," Patricia replied. "We've spent 6 months being treated like children who need supervision. Now they know we can defend ourselves. I'll take fear over contempt any day." 3 days later, Ambassador Valkresh found himself once again approaching Earth. But this time his cruiser was surrounded by an escort of human warships that had seemingly materialized from nowhere. The Resolute, that primitive destroyer he'd inspected, was there, but now its hull bore newly revealed weapon bays. And it was the smallest vessel in the formation. "How many ships do the humans have?" his aide asked nervously. "We're about to find out," Valkresh replied grimly. Commander Torres greeted him aboard Orbital Station 3, which had also undergone a dramatic transformation. Weapon systems that had been concealed in civilian architecture now stood openly displayed. "Ambassador Valkresh," Rebecca said cordially, "welcome back. I trust you'll find this inspection more enlightening than your last visit." "You lied to us," Valkresh said without preamble. "For years." "We omitted information," Rebecca corrected. "There's a difference. Your inspectors asked to see our chemical propulsion systems, our conventional weapons, our civilian infrastructure. We showed you exactly what you asked for. You never asked if we had electromagnetic mass drivers." "A technicality. A survival strategy," Rebecca countered. Your empire arrived offering guidance that looked suspiciously like colonialism with a diplomatic face. We chose to ensure we had options. She gestured to the window where the human defense fleet hung in formation, 200 vessels each mounting multiple railgun systems. This is a fraction of our capability, Ambassador. We have manufacturing facilities in the asteroid belt, on Titan, in orbital platforms you cataloged as civilian industry. We've been building this fleet for 5 years. Valkresh's compound eyes took in the massive display of force. You've started an arms race. Every species in the galaxy is now trying to develop kinetic weapons. Good, Rebecca replied. Competition breeds innovation. Your empire has been technologically stagnant for centuries because you had no peer threats. We've just given the galaxy a reason to evolve. And if this leads to war, then you'll discover that humanity has survived quite nicely through thousands of years of war on our homeworld alone. Rebecca's expression hardened. We don't want conflict, Ambassador, but we also won't accept being treated as inferior simply because our technology developed along different lines. Valkresh was silent for a long moment. Finally, he clicked his mandibles in resignation. The Emperor has authorized me to negotiate new treaties, terms that recognize human sovereignty and military capability. Excellent. Shall we discuss them over a tour of our shipyards? I think you'll find our production capabilities quite impressive. As they walked through the station, Valkresh caught glimpses of other projects in development, weapon systems that made railguns look conservative. Whatever else humanity was working on, they clearly had no intention of resting on their laurels. Out of curiosity, he asked, "What is humanity's next major weapons project?" Rebecca smiled enigmatically. "Oh, we have several interesting programs in development. Project Stellar Lance is quite promising. So is Project Causality Hammer. Those names sound concerning. They should be. We've spent 5 years reviewing your historical databases, studying all the weapons technologies your various species developed and then abandoned. We're finding that quite a few of them work beautifully when you approach the engineering problems from a human perspective." Valkresh felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. The galaxy had dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers who needed guidance. Instead, they'd given innovative thinkers access to thousands of years of failed experimental weapons data. "You're going to destabilize everything," he said quietly. "No," Rebecca corrected. "We're going to make sure no one can afford to threaten us. There's a difference." She paused at an observation window overlooking the shipyards. "Your empire had a choice, Ambassador. You could have treated us as equals from the beginning. Instead, you chose condescension and oversight, so we chose to ensure our survival by whatever means necessary." Below them, another batch of railgun-equipped destroyers rolled out of the construction bays, joining the growing fleet that would ensure humanity's place among the stars. Valkresh watched them and realized the truth. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again, and somewhere in the hidden facilities of the asteroid belt, human engineers were already working on the next surprise because humans, it turned out, never stopped adapting, never stopped innovating, and never forgot being dismissed as primitive. The age of railgun supremacy had begun, but it was only the beginning.